would like to begin by clarifying that my statement during the briefing was specifically in reference to civil servants. Following the briefing, I received several phone calls and messages from concerned teachers employed at subsidized schools regarding the 2% indexation scheduled to take effect as of June 2025. The retroactive payment for the period of January to May will be disbursed in July 2025, and the 8% vacation allowance is slated to be paid in June 2025. These announcements have led to questions, particularly from staff in the subsidized school sector. I want to emphasize that this matter falls under the responsibility of the Ministry of Education, and the Minister of Education will therefore provide further clarification. While the payroll of subsidized schools is managed by their respective school boards, I fully acknowledge the importance of ensuring alignment and cohesion in the treatment of all educators, while they serve in public, or whether they serve in public or subsidized institutions. There should be no distinction in how we value our teachers. It is therefore critical that there is clear communication, coordination, and planning among all stakeholders, including the ministries and school boards, to ensure that no teacher is left behind or feels that attention is being given to one group over the other. To be clear, this is not a budgetary issue. The 2025 budget, once ratified, includes provisions for both the indexation and the vacation allowance for teachers in both public and subsidized schools. The Ministry of Education is currently reviewing the matter and will engage in the necessary discussions with the school boards to clarify the payment timeline for subsidized school teachers. An update will be provided by the Minister of Education once those discussions have taken place. I will now proceed with answering the questions posed by the honorable members of Parliament. MP Duran asked, will the government make any payments based on the proposed 2025 budget despite its lack of ratification? Madam Chair, through you, as previously mentioned, the amended 2024 budget remains the legal basis for financial operations, even though the 2025 budget has not yet been fully approved. In the meantime, government will continue to make the necessary payments to ensure that basic public services remain operational. This is a common practice when there is a delay in budget approval. The previous year's budget or other legal mechanisms can be used temporarily to maintain continuity in government functioning. Next question. What legal basis is the government issuing or using to justify any expenditures beyond exceeding the 50,000 limit made in the last couple of months? Through you, Madam Chair, the government is operating under the provision of the law that allows spending to continue based on the previous year's budget when the new budget has not yet been approved. This means that as long as the spending is necessary, follows the established rules, and is for essential services such as expenditures, can proceed even if they exceed the 50,000 guilder limit, provided they remain within the legal framework. In addition, payments owed to creditors above 50,000 guilders may also be executed in accordance with the applicable legal provisions. Next question. If any payments above this threshold have been made, where do they align with the constitutional provisions within the Kingdom Financial Supervision Law? Through you, Madam Chair, as previously mentioned, the amended 2024 budget remains the legal basis for financial operations, even though the 2025 budget has not yet been officially approved. Next question. How many civil servants will reach the Jubileum milestone? Madam Chair, through you, allow me to give a breakdown for the 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, or 45 years of service between January 2024 and December 2025. 2024 years: Finance 13, VSA 5, TAT 9, AZET 32, VROMI 5, Education 6. For 2025, Finance 10, VSF 14, TAT 2, AZET 30, VROMI 7, and Education 3. Unfortunately, I am unable at this time to provide a detailed breakdown specific to the Ministry of Justice. However, I can confirm that the combined total for the Jubilee payments for the Ministry of Justice for both years 2024 and 2025 amounts to 72. This brings the total number of Jubilee cases across all ministries for both years to 208. Allow me to clarify, Jubilee years that were already legally established have been processed and paid out. However, based on the information received, the newly added Jubilee years, such as 15 and 20 years, have not yet been processed. The advices for these are currently being drafted, and these payments are scheduled to be made within this year. As such, of the 208 total, it is expected that approximately 60% will be paid out during the course of this year. Should a further breakdown by year, category, or ministry be deemed necessary, this can be provided in writing. Next question. How will this payout be accommodated without the ratification? Are all these payments on hold based on the fact that the 2025 budget has not been ratified? If so, what are some immediate actions that can be taken by the government to facilitate this inconvenience, given that the budget has not been ratified? Madam Chair, through you, I would like to clarify that the payments related to the Jubilee are not on hold due to the budget. The delay in processing these payments was due to the fact that P&O was awaiting the finalization of the necessary advices, which depended on the legal implementation of the new Jubilee milestones, such as 15 and 20 years of service. Now that the national decree formalizing the 2% indexation and the revised Jubilee years have been officially published on May 5th, 2025, P&O will proceed with finalizing the advices, and the individuals concerned will be paid accordingly. This will allow for the Jubilee payments to be processed inclusive of both 2% indexations. Next question. What is the projected total amount of payouts for Jubilees of the fiscal year 2024 and 2025? Will the full amount of the 2025 Jubilee payments be explicitly reflected in the forthcoming 2025 Budget 2.0? Madam Chair, the Jubilee accounting posts fall under the budget line item Bruto Lonen and Saladison. This is precisely why the budget was structured in a consolidated manner, in Huklapt. As long as there are sufficient funds within the Bruto Lonen and Saladison allocation, a budget amendment will not be necessary. At this point, there is no budgetary holdup for the payment of the Jubilee. Once P&O finalizes the relevant advices, the payments can be processed without delay. The Jubilee payments can be executed, and during the assessment of the upcoming budget amendment, we will review whether sufficient funds remain to cover the full year. It is important to note that in 2025, we are also accounting for payments related to 2024. Should it be deemed during the amendment process that the current allocation is insufficient to cover Jubilee payments through year end, the post will be adjusted accordingly. However, I would like to emphasize that the 2025 budget as approved contains adequate funding to cover Jubilee payments to date. Since the budget spans the entire year, any required adjustments for year-end payments will be made in the context of the budget amendment process. Next question. Will the multi-year budget framework from 2026 and beyond reflect the recurring costs of the Jubilee payments? Madam Chair, I would like to note that Jubilee payments are included in each annual budget. inclusive 2026 and beyond. As in the 2025 budget, these payments are accounted for under the broader category Bruto Lonen en Salarissen. In contrast, in the uitgeklapte 2024 budget, they were specifically listed under budget post 41026. Had the 2025 budget followed the same uitgeklapte structure, we would have faced challenges in executing the Jubilee payments. Any shortfall under the specific post would have required us to return to Parliament for a budget amendment in order to proceed with the payments. However, under the current ingeklapte 2025 budget format, the Jubilee is part of the overall Bruto Lonen en Salarissen post. This provides the necessary flexibility to reallocate funds, for example, from unfilled vacancies to cover any additional amounts required. This is a clear example of how the ingeklapte budget structure supports more efficient and effective government operations by allowing for better financial flexibility and responsiveness.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurances.
24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
Minister of Finance, the discussion concerning the subsidy, if it's annual or incidental. I'm going to leave that to rest and give the minister some time to go over that again. And we will have that discussion then, as she requested, with the Minister of TIAT when she comes in. Because it makes absolutely no sense to me, and I know it doesn't make any sense. I am going to post the ordinance on my social media so that others could also take a read into it and see what was said today is totally incorrect. But I understand the minister's point that it has nothing to do, it is a TIAT problem. Then, Madam Chair Lady, I have another problem, which is simple. The fact that members of parliament request documentation.
MP?
Madam Chair Lady, may I finish?
No,
please?
because I'm reminding you that it's actually a clarification.
This is a clarification,
Okay,
but I
so
need
get
to,
to it.
yes.
You may continue,
I think,
MP Lacruz.
thank you, Madam Chair Lady. I think it is crazy that members of parliament, even as confidential, we cannot request documents to be able to do our jobs here in parliament, which is keep the government in check. I am starting to feel that this is a lawless country. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Madam Chair, the Minister of Finance read answers, read procedures, and said these answers were given by the Minister of TIAT. In my view, if it's confusion, I'm throwing the Minister of TIAT under the bus. This is a meeting, Madam Chair, that last meeting I said I can't wait for the budget. And today this meeting was a bit redundant because I'm hearing ask TIAT, ask TIAT, ask TIAT. And TIAT, again, does not pay. So, Madam Chair, through you, I have one point of clarification. Was a discussion had with the Minister of TIAT when you received the answers? Or was it just emailed to your person? Was a discussion had? Because, in my view, no clarity is given to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Concerns by the MPs, or at least the ones that showed concern for the spending of the funds of government. And basically, since the law was not followed, the illegal process of taking money out of the Treasury and paying a US-based entity without following any sort of legislation. So there was no legal basis to execute. And the fact of the matter is that my faction, I believe even the UP faction, we have requested a meeting on Soul Beach that has been delayed for weeks. And the fact that today we're playing hot potato between the Minister of Finance and the Minister of TIAT regarding the issue on Soul Beach shows that no one wants to take accountability because it is a mistake. And technically, right, the money then should be returned. Because in Article 43 of our compatibility law, it says the Minister of Finance is the one responsible for the finances of the country and the budget. In addition to that, the Ministry of Finance has contributed to Soul Beach. I can't imagine that an advice comes in from TIAT, and we can contribute towards it, but we're not going to read the advice or know what we're contributing towards. But the minister also did mention, I want to clarify that, Madam Chair, the minister mentioned that the Soul Beach advice did not follow all the procedures because it did not go to FBB and it did not even go to the SG of Finance. So the fact that we have an advice that went from TIAT to directly to the Council of Ministers shows irresponsibility in the Council of Ministers, and that be, like I said, it's hard for us to even trust going forward. In addition to that, Madam Chair, I want to clarify again to you, Madam Chair, if a LLC, an American company, qualifies for a subsidy, then we are opening the floodgates for every single company in St. Martin to be able to qualify too. Because we can't say that an American company doesn't have to follow the subsidy ordinance, but then the local companies that want to apply for subsidy can't. So precedent has been set, and I'm assuming that it's public, expectations have been created. So the government cannot now go and refuse businesses.
MP, you have a clarification request
That's,
to the
that,
minister?
that's going to be my question now. So
Okay.
can the government, based on this, refuse local businesses from requesting subsidies? The minister mentioned that a point about discretionary matters. Yes, but even for those discretionary matters, a decree has to be made. So why am I deviating from the ordinance, and does Soul Beach fit the national plan of St. Martin to help the youth and community base and so forth? Was that decree published? Can the public see this decree? In addition to that, if we're going to support businesses, in the law itself states it has to be, if you're not going to follow the ordinance, it has to be in the national budget. That's why Carnival is there. That's why St. Martin Music Festival is there. That's why we even had a festival back in the days, a regatta and stage show, because all of those, even though we didn't send the money over, all of them were budgeted in the budget. So then, a lot of these requirements then maybe wouldn't apply. But that's not the case.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
It's time for a new brand that is as bold, vibrant, and colorful as the island of St. Martin, with colors drawn from our diversity, cultural heritage, and nature. Our breathtaking beaches, waters, and sun, the majestic brown pelican, our national symbol, the radiant yellow sage, our national flower, the historic border monument signifying the Dutch and French sides, our exciting cruise, yachting, and boating ports, renowned Maho Beach and St. Martin Airport, the hub to the Caribbean. All these parts come together to create the shape of the island of St. Martin. More than a logo. It's a new brand that engages, excites, and will inspire travelers to book. It's time to tell the St. Martin story, to reintroduce travelers to St. Martin, to honor our past, to embrace our present, and shape our future. Our culture and diversity, Dutch and French sides, unrivaled cuisine, twice the nightlife, entertainment, and shopping, cruises, boating, and yachting, twice the adventure, exploration, and relaxation, splendid and scenic accommodations, Pinel, Tentamar, and island hopping in the Caribbean. Whatever your taste, St. Martin has more. Experience twice the Caribbean. St. Martin.
24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
about the update of the budget process so that all of us would understand as MPs what is going on in terms of the delay of the ratification of the budget, which was approved back in January 2025. And it's pretty obvious to everyone that a lot of the discussion is going towards things that were not budgeted for, were paid out, and there's still a little bit of confusion as to how exactly it was done and whether it was done in alignment or, you know, in a similar way of how we've been doing business of the people when it comes to subsidy. And I will repeat it again: Carnival-related subsidy, Heineken Regatta subsidy, that sort of thing. And I really tried to sort of organize my thoughts in a way that I acknowledge the fact that we still have to come here again and discuss the budget, which gives a lot of us opportunity as well to bring everything up then. But everyone touched on the differences that we have between the way that the subsidy is being handled. Specific attention is on the Soul Beach Festival, which is supposed to take place next week, as well as very briefly on the Carnival payout that was done this year. But I think my recommendation and advice would be for the minister to potentially really clarify what was done with the Soul Beach and Carnival in accordance with the way that we work when it comes to the subsidy ordinance, so that for once and for all that we could actually not draw a line under it, but then we know the right way of doing things and the wrong way of doing things and the sort of loose way of doing things, and then do it the right way going forward, right? And one of the things was brought up in the clarification round about the annual subsidy versus the incidental subsidy by one of the MPs. And this is where a lot of the confusion starts, because as we enter into the budget debate that's going to come, I will say that in accordance with the budget that is coming back to Parliament, that we have to debate all over again, I hope that I can expect a budget that is free of misinterpretation, free of misunderstandings, free of misallocations, and free of misinformation. And saying that, I will focus on the budget-related questions back then, because the minister came in here today to answer the delays of the budget. But I cannot disregard the issues that we still have about the subsidy. And I want to go back here so that everyone, I'm not going to talk about illegal, illegal or legal. I want to talk exactly about how we do the subsidy ordinance and what is explained, or what I picked out from the legislation, the ordinance, right? It specifically says that institutions that receive the subsidy has to be for a not-for-profit. But then the minister explains to us in her answers received from the Ministry of TEAT that Soul Beach is an LLC. And what I remember of an LLC, it's a limited liability company that basically kind of like protects the members of it. Most of the time, a LLC operates for profit. It's really difficult to have a LLC that's a non-profit, which is why people just keep it simple as a non-profit. So thinking about the definition in here of institutional requirements in our subsidy ordinance, this is where I have to make sure, again, reiterate to the minister via you, Madam Chair Lady, that we clarify the way that things have been handled in St. Martin before, specifically for the subsidy that we are all familiar with, which is the Carnival and the Heineken Regatta. Because what happens is, for a one-off ad hoc subsidy, it has to happen 2 months before the event, which means that in my understanding, that was done because we already knew about this event happening more than 2 months in advance. The minister announced it I think since November, December, January, we knew about this. So whatever was done in the background in government was done more than 2 months in advance. Now, if we're talking about the recurring annual subsidy, like what we all expected with the Carnival and Heineken Regatta, I remember that one of the obligations is that you basically have to report it It has to be part of the budget, and they have to say if we have any additional specifications for those entities, those nonprofit entities, they have to explain how they're using the subsidy. Government can actually restrict the subsidy to them and say, well, it could only be for this purpose. Back in the day, the understanding was Carnival, they would get a subsidy for marketing, and they had to show, and they should have shown in their audits that it was for marketing-related expenses. So this is what I want to only have an ask of the minister through you to really clarify that for us, because again, the subsidy ordinance is clear, and also I acknowledge that maybe if there's any supplement to the original ordinance, that could also be explained by the minister. I think if once we have that, then it will help us go a long way. But I would really hope that we have already been delayed since January to now today, May 15th of 2025 budget, that we really draw the line under all this this sort of misunderstanding around a subsidy. Just give the definitions, give what happened, whether the money had to be pulled from various accounts, just explain it. Just explain how it happened. Because I am not saying that the Council of Ministers did something illegal or legal. There is a process. Where did we divert from that process? And are we going to continue going down the road of moving away from the way that we have been working in the past? I just want to understand what was the more common way of working in the past. And then maybe then we will have less sort of confusion around the subsidy, no subsidy, nonprofit, LLC, whether, it is applicable here. Because I will say that, this issue of a LLC receiving a subsidy, it leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in the mouth of local entities that also struggle. And it's not, I'm not saying it for nothing, because everybody, if you are aware of what is happening in the country, we have a lot of work, a lot of pressure going on nonprofit organizations to just help our people do this regular day-to-day things. And whether that is feeding seniors, whether that is providing food for everybody, everything that nonprofits are doing for us that are helping with the work that technically government is responsible for.